the attack when defending.
I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on.
With an introduction like that, what more can I say? People deluded, I'm back again. Special guest settings now. It's not every day we get to have the Black David Ornstein. Us mere mortals have been blessed with the presence of an athletic writer. What are you saying, my guy?
I'm all good, thanks. I didn't actually prepare myself for one of those introductions again.
I always do it to you. I don't know how you didn't read what I was going to
Yeah, sorry, my bad. I should have came prepared, but I'm good. I hope you're well as well. I hope you have had a good summer and all that. I can see the new drip.
Come on, the new drip. It's growing on me, man. The melanin is melanin, and obviously, where's the badge? Wait, where is it?
On the other side, yeah.
We're representing, man. It's great days, man. Let's jump straight into it, man. Let's address the positive elephant in the room now. Unless you was under a rock, I'm pretty sure you know we won the Community Shield, or better yet, English Super Cup. What's your immediate thoughts on it, man?
Well, so immediately I felt the same as if I would have felt if we ended up losing that game 1-0, because just looking at the performance, I felt there's enough there, even if Trossard didn't come up with the equalizer, to feel good about the team. But I think what the Trossard goal and obviously winning it on pens does is just solidify those feelings a bit more and almost give a bit of confirmation, which was nice to kind of get ahead of the new season, because this preseason's been a bit more mixed than last year's.
Tell them again, man.
So it's just, it's been interesting to kind of digest that. And I guess now it's quite, a nice feeling to have ahead of the opening day, really. So, as I said, I would have felt the same if they'd lost that game based off the way they played. But it's just nice to have the win.
Like you said, man, it's lovely to have the win. Obviously, you don't want to, while it's not the be-all and end-all, at the end of the day, it's a cup final. You're at Wembley. It's a nice day out. You was at the game as well, if I can remember correctly. So you don't want to go home as a loser. And obviously, the emotions of a football fan where you kind of, I don't want to say snatch it from the jaws of defeat, but, we got an own goal. We showed our bottle on penalties. Maybe in hindsight, midweek against Monaco, God has a funny way of making things happen. Maybe that was preparation. I agree with you in that if we lost, obviously I would have been disappointed, but I think there's a lot that we need to work on, and I think there's a lot of positives. I think positives, I won't quite say we can go toe-to-toe with City because we haven't earned that right yet, but for want of better phrases, I think we've shown we can go toe-to-toe. I think Arteta has shown he'll experiment. I won't say Havertz playing as a false nine took everyone by surprise because he's done it before. Arteta's spoken on his versatility, but I'm pretty sure everybody midweek, whether you're in the staff room or you're talking with your boys at the pub or whatever, it was probably focused around Eddie or Trossard. Arteta took a risk there. Obviously, Tierney came on, it didn't really work out, but Trossard and Fabio Vieira, in my opinion, had the kind of best cameo he's had in a very long time. So I think Arteta showed his flexibility tactically. I think off the ball, we actually looked very well. I would say in terms of improvements, we've probably got a chase for me being a bit better across 90 minutes because I think I don't quite think we started slow, but I think we was a bit too respectful of City. Then we started to show personality. Kind of when Cole Palmer scored, I think because we was a bit tired and leggy and whatnot against City, I think we started creeping into old habits. So all in all, I think 1-1 probably a fair result. I think both teams would want to create and score more. And I think there's a lot of positives in areas of development, essentially, man. What did you think of the individual displays, man? We got to give credit to the back five, man. Before we get onto a certain Dutchman, Ramsdale, he lives in extreme land, man. I think he had a great game. You was at the game, so you saw it a bit more. Saved our bacon in that second half, man.
Yeah, I mean, even before the second half, I thought in the first half, there were obviously moments where, say, again, just watching it unfold, you're probably just anxious because he's letting the ball get so close to the goal line when he's
too calm,
when he's distributing.
So
but I think those moments just show where he is in terms of a calmness, because yes, we may see it as a risk, but he's making the passes. So that
you're talking about that one out to Benjamin White, innit? Where he took forever to really,
So yeah, that kind of put him in good stead, I felt. And then from there, you're asking him to be a goalkeeper, and I think the save from Foden. So it was one of those moments where it just kind of went in slow motion for me as I was watching it, and I was just so grateful that he was able to tip it wide.
And then his groin, like, just got something on it. Literally, that was crazy.
The second save from Rodri is probably the one he means more. So yeah, I was happy for him, especially, which I'm sure we'll talk about in terms of the competition that could come in for him. So I'm happy for him in that sense, but also speaking to Arteta after the game.
You see, big guess. You see, people, not everyone can say he's spoken to Arteta. See, I said it so casually.
Basically, he brought up the point of practicing penalties throughout pre-season and how they obviously lost on pens against United in America, and then had the penalty shootout against Monaco, as you mentioned, in the week. So I think it was kind of a conscious effort to have those penalty shootouts, not just for the Community Shield, but also for the season ahead. So hopefully we can probably see, fingers crossed, Ramsdale's a bit better with his penalty saving.
2 penalty saves in a week, man. Dreamland. They said he can't save them. It's like buses, isn't it? It comes around in twos, and that's crazy.
So yeah, hopefully that's a good sign going into the season.
I'm with you, man. I think Ramsdale deserved it. I'm sure you've obviously seen the player tribute where he spoke on, homophobia. Unfortunately, his wife going through a miscarriage and everything else. And he's someone that I think now that Havertz has come, I think he's Ramsdale's been a player, maybe not so much now, but a player that divides opinion. I think he's a player that we live in extreme land, like, not to give clout to a certain platforms, but if he makes a great save, it trends. If he does something shaky, it trends. Ramsdale lives in hot take land. And I admire Ramsdale. If he fronts up to the music, wears his heart on his sleeve, you can tell he really embodies himself into the club. Clearly, in terms of ball playing, it was great for him, in terms of signing for this football team. And I think he needed a moment like at the weekend. You're a hero. I think his performance across the 90 minutes deserved it. And I just think, obviously, now you're a hero as well. You touched on it. And while we're on the theme of Arsenal, Man City, we might as well go over it. David Raya, did it take you by surprise? What's your thoughts on potentially him signing it? I don't know if it's confirmed, but allegedly he was even at Wembley. Allegedly.
I won't say that I was expecting it to move or just say crop up this summer, but I wouldn't say I'm totally surprised. And the reason for that is Arsenal have been interested in him for 3 years. When almost very similar.
It's like a girl finally replying to your DM, innit? It's crazy. Like, finally got it. Like, finally got a date.
If only. But I think, it was very similar to 2020, where obviously Arsenal were in the Community Shield. It was not Bernd Leno. Emi Martinez that played and won them.
Oh, that's a great point.
The Community Shield on penalty.
I feel like deja vu. You're right. This happened. Yeah, go on, man. I'm cutting you. But thought the broken thing there.
And Arsenal were looking at David Raya at that time because Emi Martinez wanted more football, and he got it at Villa. So credit to him for that. But then with this, I just also wasn't surprised because how Ramsdale came to Arsenal. It was a very similar kind of move where he came in to challenge Bernd Leno, and he did that. I think what makes this situation a little bit different is that whereas Leno wasn't the type of goalkeeper Arteta wanted, both Ramsdale and Raya are. So I don't see it being as, say, detrimental as that situation was. So yeah, I think with it, I wasn't 100% surprised just because of those patterns that have been there before. And come on, I think people have to start looking at how Arsenal behave historically, and you'll see there are patterns there. So that's kind of where I was at with it.
I'm with you, man. I wouldn't say it took me by surprise because, as you said, we've got an admiration for him. The summer we tried to sign Ramsdale. Well, in fact, the summer we got Ramsdale, we tried to sign Raya. I think it's a thing where I don't know if this has been it's like a market opportunity. Raya's rejected 2 deals. They either sell him or he goes for free. Obviously, Matt Turner's probably sat there and said, Gaffer, I need to go. And because we've been proactive with the signings we brought in initially, we're now proactively reactive to the market. And as you said, we've got an admiration. He fits the system to a T. He knows the goalkeeping coach. He's a fellow Spaniard, probably an element of wanting to stay in London as well, potentially cut price. It just made sense. And I'm for it, really, because as much as, you know, we all play favourites, we've all got favourites in the team. And Ramsdale and Benjamin White, I know White's not a goalie, but they've been living in dreamland. You know, people had a lot to say when they signed for the club. They're ever present. They're, you know, Ramsdale, new deal. Benjamin White, there's talk of a new deal. And then Arteta's just gone, you know what, Timber, you're coming into the fold. You know, Raya, you're coming into the fold. So that gives them a positive, like, looking over your shoulder because your place could be gone. That obviously raises the ability. Clearly, we get a better squad. I just wonder, for me, who is going to be the number 2? Because as you said, you know, Martinez was here. We had Martinez. We was here with Czech and Leno. Was here with Leno and Ramsdale. You know, you've seen with United with Dean Henderson and De Gea. You've seen Courtois in Czech. How really can you keep these keepers, really? You know, has David Raya been told your second choice? If you push, then that's your business and you get a spot. Or is it, you know, may the best man win? Either way, I really respect the fact that Ramsdale will fight. I do think it helps Ramsdale as well because, respectfully to Matt Turner, there's a gulf between them. I think Raya and Ramsdale are kind of in the same realm. In fact, the only thing I think one has over the other, I think Raya's focus or level of focus is a bit better than Aaron Ramsdale's. But I'm all for it, man. I'm really all for it. I touched on him, Timber. Take it away, man. I can't say anything else I ain't said already, man.
So this guy, I think there are a few players in this squad that are very Arsenal players, and he is one of them. I feel like it's not just the Ajax thing, but the way he carries himself as a defender. Guys would have seen it throughout preseason, the little feints and things like that.
The body feints. It's more than Pepe's. Yeah. He's just, it's crazy, bro.
I think and I know we've spoken about this at length, but you're just seeing technical players everywhere on that pitch, and it's a great thing to see. What is also really impressive with him, not just being able to play left back, but being able to defend at left back well. There are times where I know you touched on it a bit earlier in terms of City or Arsenal looking to contain City basically from the start. And that meant City had to keep going wide for their attacks. And White did really well on his side. Timber did even better defensively.
Good battle against Bernardo Silva, a seasoned vet, man. You're right.
And even in the second half as well, where they were looking to Kyle Walker, and no crosses came in from that side when he was on.
He relished it.
So yeah, I've been really impressed by him. As you say, like, I think coming in, the primary kind of role for him looked like it was going to be right back, but now it's a bit more of a question mark, and I think it's a good question mark. It's not an unknown that we're kind of worried about, but more intrigued by. So yeah, looking into, I guess, the opening weeks of the season, if Zinchenko isn't available, I wouldn't be surprised if that's his spot to start with. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how he kind of develops and evolves.
As you said there, man, you know, not that it was anything universal, but I was convinced he would start left back against Manchester City. And as you kind of touched on, for me, it's like, you know, when some players play on quote unquote their weaker side, you can evidently see it. Like, clearly the man's right-footed, but he's cultured with both. He backs himself. For me, he makes the right decisions. He knows when to try dribble and drop a feint, when to keep it basic. You know, when the game first kicked off, obviously he was at the ground, so you probably saw it different. But I'm not gonna lie, Bernardo he tried to snap at him, and he dropped a shot. Bernardo dropped a shoulder on him and kind of showed him levels. I was thinking, oh, are you gonna crumble or are you gonna stand up? And he was like, all right, cool, you win a battle, I'm gonna win the war. Very impressed with Timber. Even in the second half, where I don't know if Rice was instructed to do it, but Rice was kind of making for like 5 minutes. It was like an indirect back three, and Timber was staying further forward. And I'm happy with it. I think Arteta's used pre-season to experiment a lot at left back. You've seen Kirill do the inverted. We've seen Tomiyasu. Obviously, Zinchenko can do it, and the man in question, Timber. Whether it's left back, right back, it's good options for the squad, merely. And, you know, I know he's playing left back, but Benjamin White's got to have been looking at that when he signed to the club and thought, oh, you know what, he's early 20s like me. He's in the international scene like myself. He can play in my roles. I don't want someone to take my spot. And I think, to be honest with you, I think when Saliba had the game he had, when Timber had the game he had, when Ramsdale made them saves, even to a degree, Gabriel's not getting enough hype. But I think Benjamin White goes under the radar. I am very impressed with our back five, basically, in that game, man. And I think Timber's great, man. You know, he's intelligent, he's tigerish. Obviously, there will be times where he's kind of slow and things like that and has to do better, but I think he's done well. I think personally, he's ultimately played his way into the team, because I agree with you in that when he came in, you probably thought, yeah, you know what, you've got to be a bit patient. You might not play straight away, but I just think you've had such a pre-season that Arteta is saying, you know what, you've hit the ground running. It's your time to shine. Really and truly, what? Him, Trossard, Kyrgios, surely they're players of pre-season. Who would you say would be your players of pre-season then?
Oh, that's a good question. Timber's up there. You know I love Trossard. Like I can't hide.
You're not, man.
I can't hide my feelings. Like this guy is just so good.
Madman,
I think
sick.
Going into, I don't know if I should start that conversation yet.
Nah, start it, man. Is that sound like an uncomfortable conversation?
Yeah. Going into next week, I feel like Trossard is probably best suited for that game against Forest.
When you say that, do you mean the left or the right? I mean the left or up front?
In the middle.
Oh, you're not here for the Havertz thing.
Well, no, I'm not saying that either. So we can talk this out.
Yeah, man. You know what? Let's do it. Let's have it, man, because we did allude to it, man. As I said, you know, Havertz has played there before because of the context of the game. Yeah, on one hand, it's, you know, it's a glorified friendly per se, but it's also the English Super Cup, Wembley. Arteta can't really take risks like that. As you mentioned, you got Trossard, you got Havertz, Eddie Nketiah, an organic forward. Respectfully to Balogun, you're probably not in this conversation. So where are you with the false nine thing? Do you actually think we need another striker as well, for what it's worth?
So this is the interesting part of it all, because like the conversation for a lot of the summer has been, okay, Arsenal got their main foundation sorted early doors. Anything else is probably going to be the icing on the cake in reality. And people were thinking, I was even asked on a few podcasts, like, what else would you do? And I was like, well, I don't really know. But I know some fans would like a striker. I know some fans would like an extra midfielder. And then,
so what would you like?
And then there's the goalkeeper discussion. But before I get to my opinions or whatever, with Havertz, I think you see, and also I'll touch on it with Rice, but you see these players that are able to play in multiple roles and positions. It slightly lessens the need for that discussion because they can do it. So
the versatility, basically.
As you said, most people, myself included, would have thought it would be Nketiah or Trossard starting against Manchester City. But even before the game, Arteta was talking about how sometimes there are things he sees on the training ground that he probably didn't think about and give him a decision to make. So with Eddie and Trossard being known entities, I think it probably just lended itself to try
a spanner in the works for Pep's thinking, basically.
Try out Havertz there. And to be fair, he did play well aside from his 2 missed chances.
Oh, we saw that in a lot of, you know, Chelsea appearances.
Yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, you see it with Declan Rice as well, being able to play 6 and 8. He's able to play with Partey.
Well, learn to shoot like Xhaka, though, because that shot was horrible.
Yeah. And it's almost, again, these patterns just keep cropping up in my head. But if we think 2 years ago, we were having a similar conversation about Smith Rowe and Ødegaard. People didn't think they could play together, but
wait, we saw the angle. As Wenger babies, we saw the angle.
So this is a conversation that is very nice to have, because it's not one where
good headaches.
We're kind of digging out players or anything like that. It's more who suits this game more. So that's the really interesting kind of aspect of it all. And in terms of that Forest game, I just think it's going to be a different type of game to the City one, where Arsenal are at home. They're going to be on the ball from minute one. You need a lot of movement to move.
Early season optimism and all of that as well.
So yeah, that's my thinking behind it. But then again, speaking to Adrian Clark earlier,
Shout
he was
out
saying,
Clarky.
well, maybe Forest will just set up deep and just hope Arsenal throw loads of crosses in the box. So maybe Havertz could be the one that fits it more. So again, a lot of questions, but good questions, I think.
So again, to kind of touch back on that, you mentioned left-sided 8, right wing up front. If it was up to you, which obviously it's not, where are you going?
With Havertz.
No, because you mentioned on, people asked you what positions you would want to strengthen on if you could.
Oh,
Where, if it was up to you, like,
oh
what
my
would it
God.
be?
I still haven't come up with like an answer in my own head.
Nah, you're holding back, man. I
I'm
know
not
in your heart.
like I'm being serious. Like I honestly don't know. Because defense is sorted. We know that.
I never thought I'd hear us say that about our club. Shout out Arteta, man. Can you just deep that sentence you said, our defense is sorted. And it actually is. With the greatest of respect, we've come a long way from fans genuinely actually considering is Pablo Mari and Rob Holding our best centre-back pairing. We've come out the trenches. I'm not trying to criticize the players, just bigging up Mikel Arteta, because look at them. Look at the players we had then to now. It's absolutely crazy, man. So what? All right, cool. Let's shape it up differently. You're offered a right winger that's genuine competition for Bukayo Saka / could take him out of the team, removing the love for Saka out of the equation. You're offered a striker that, maybe a bit different to what we have, maybe even gets 20 odd league goals, getting us closer towards what Arteta says of 100. Exactly, of 100 points. Or you're offered another central midfielder. Which one you picking?
I think it's going to be the right wing competition.
So there we have it, people. The guy wants a winger. There we have it, man.
But honestly, I think this squad now is probably in the best shape it's been in for a while. So
I'd say 98% complete, really. I'm sure Arteta disagrees, but yeah.
But yeah, very, very good omen, hopefully, for the season.
I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I think we've got some good players, some good conversation, some healthy competition. I think fans need to probably look towards the City model in that. Of course, there's some players at City that are always going to play. 9 times out of 10, Kevin De Bruyne is going to play. Diaz is going to play. Edison's going to play. Walker's going to play. But the majority of them are rotated in and out. And then it's a thing where, you've seen it with Mahrez when he was there, Foden. A lot of their players will have like a purple patch, a bit like Trossard in pre-season, where they're really playing out their skin.
I got to tell you that.
No. Trossard's a good player. I'm just saying, like, the form, on top of being a great player, your form at the moment kind of means you have to be the team.
He's been doing it since he
arrived. No. That's what I mean. It's like with Bernardo Silva, there's times where obviously they're good players, but they're really playing out of their skin. And I think Trossard's one of them now. I think that's the City model. I think that's what we've got to go with. I think Arsenal fans want a lot of depth, and I'm included in this. We want a lot of depth. We want options. We want rotations. But when it's your favorite guys, Smith Rowe, I start moving a bit nervous, like what's going on. So I think it's legitimate conversations in relation to the Forest game. You said a great point in relation to who should play up front, and honestly, it's a good question, a good talking point you said, because I'm in two minds. I'm on the fence because on one hand, I kind of want to play the same team. I think, Havertz, you're making your debut, all of that stuff. I do like the fact that Arteta keeps speaking about Havertz's versatility and his height. And if we are going to do a cross thing and have to break them down, there's that. I'm in agreement with you in that, especially against Nottingham Forest. I think Martinelli and Trossard, they can get the best out of each other. They can rotate. You can't really hit a moving target. But then I think, do you go Eddie Nketiah, like an organic striker? He is adding them layers to his game. I don't know. Like, so today I'm leaning more towards Havertz, admittedly. Tomorrow I'm probably back on my Trossard stuff. You asked me on Friday, probably say, Eddie Nketiah, Martinelli, Saka. So honestly, I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you think we have enough options in midfield though? Like actual pure midfielders. With the greatest of respects, not the Fabio Vieiras, the Smith Rowes, on paper, Havertz, guys that can play in that role as well as others, like pure centre mid options. So the Jorginhos, the El Nenes, the Partey's, Declan Rice. Do you think we have enough in midfield?
For now.
Cool. What's the now part mean, man? That's scary, man.
No, that just means availability wise. I think what they have available at the minute, yeah. But how consistent is that availability going to be? That's the big question. So I think, for now, I'm quite okay with that midfield, especially seeing how that three of Partey, Odegaard, and Rice has been working in the past 2 games. So against Monaco, I think you saw a lot more of what they could do on the ball. So especially with Rice, what I've kind of seen from just watching him kind of in the flesh is
Baller.
he changes the game in like a couple of seconds.
I know you saw that recovery tackle.
No, so before we get to that, so against Monaco,
Mazza.
There was a moment about half an hour in where Arsenal trying to play out, and it gets a bit techie, but Saliba, I think, or Timber just hits it long to Nketiah, and Nketiah just nods it into no man's land. 2 Monaco players are going for the ball. Rice is the one that comes out with it. And then
I'm saying, we got some physicality, man. Like,
and that's what happened when he got his shot at, the one that got blocked away for the corner, which then led to the goal. So that moment was kind of like a wow moment. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, the tracking back, but also the pressing on Rodri yesterday. Again, I was there. I was kind of like, oh.
I wasn't familiar. I was familiar with your game, but I wasn't familiar with your game like that.
The speed at which he covered the ground on the silver one.
He don't look quick as well. It's deceiving. Yeah. Like he just covers the ground. He's like a police officer, really. And that's the thing, though, man. It's like long term. I mean, I know you remember the game Brighton a few years ago. Lokonga as a lone 6, Smith Rowe and Odegaard either side for obvious reasons. That was never going to work. But I think it was the right idea from Arteta, just the wrong time. And maybe at the time, the personnel. Obviously, Smith Rowe and Odegaard could still play there. We hope for a miracle with Lokonga, but it doesn't look like you'll be involved in that. I do think long-term, Arteta wants and again, games, depending on the game, different personnel, all of that. But I do think what you saw against Man United in pre-season, I think that's what he wants to try and run with a Rice or Partey as like the chaperone, as a lone 6, and then whatever rotating 8s. I just feel that's individually, those players are still learning. They have to learn to play with each other. And I just think with the Premier League starting next week, with us obviously being at Wembley in the Sunday that's just gone, I think Rice and Partey, along with Odegaard, I think that gives us a mix of technical ability, balance, tenacity, obviously the pressing as well. Rice presses well, Partey presses well. Obviously, he got skinned alive by Foden, but he come back again. Like, it's cool. He's on the yellow. We allow him. Odegaard, I think Odegaard is not praised enough for his defensive metrics and how he works, because he doesn't fit the image of the ugly side. The man could be a model. He's a wonderful. He's one of the probably best looking players at Arsenal. So he's probably not that. So I still think we need one more midfielder, but I just think that, and kind of you made a thought go through my head in that you mentioned the Monaco, great defended by the Monaco lad to deny Rice. Obviously, Rice had a shot yesterday. It was horrible, but he's starting to get into those positions and he's getting a good partnership with Martinelli. Yeah. He's starting to bring that to the table, man. So like, what do you even think of Rice as well? Because we've skipped completely over him kind of as well.
Yeah, I think so. My main thing coming into the summer was if Xhaka goes, you can't lose that presence in midfield. I remember asking Mikel Arteta a question.
See what I'm saying, people? See what I'm saying? Asking Mikel Arteta. Wait, what's next? I had tea with Thierry Henry and that.
In a press conference. Basically, it was after the Oxford United game. I don't know if anyone remembers how that game actually went, because people were just.
Sure, we should have had about 2 penalties in that, if I'm on about the right one.
I can't remember, but what I remember from it is, okay, it ended 3-0, but for an hour, Arsenal were terrible.
Yeah, it was a terrible game of football. It weren't the best of watches. Eddie scored, if I remember correctly.
Yep. After the hour mark, Arteta brings on Xhaka and Zinchenko, and immediately Arsenal playing better. And the big reason why is because Xhaka was doing simple things that other midfielders may not do. And simple things being, okay, the ball's on the right side of the pitch. I, myself, will move over to that side of the pitch to give
an
options.
The best footballers ask the best questions.
So little things like that. And then I think he went and pressed really well and won a free kick, which Elneny scored a header from. So that stood out to me, and I was like, what am I going to ask Arteta? What why do you, Arsene Wenger, Unai Emery, all pick this guy, even when he wasn't scoring goals like he was last season? And the thing Arteta said was he's got presence. So that's why coming into the summer, my thing was, how do Arsenal keep?
You're losing that alpha male essentially. Really.
So I think that's what Rice brings. That's the main kind of USP I would say for him. In terms of him as a guy, it seems like he's a great personality.
Great lad, isn't it? Yeah.
Which I think will be a really massive thing. And also, when we talk about moments, you obviously mentioned Ramsdale earlier. I think he had a really big moment yesterday. So after the trophy lift, they started playing Ice Ice Baby on the PA system. And again, people just think it's a joke and everything.
No, but that gasses you. If you're a player, you hear fans going mad. That is heartwarming stuff.
But the thing that stood out was he had the Community Shield in his hand, handed it over to Ødegaard, and he was just going to walk away. But then Ødegaard drags him in front of the Arsenal fans, and then there's a little moment.
You're one of us now, lad.
Yeah, so I think that on top of the reception you got at the Emirates, I think those little things,
and after the game
really
at the Emirates,
yeah, I think those little things can be really helpful for the players. And with Ramsdale, actually, I remember being at West Brom away, his first start in the League Cup. And for people who don't remember or choose not to remember, this was a time when he was getting heaps of abuse on Twitter. And then the first thing that happens is when he comes out to do his warm-up, the away fans clap him. I remember that. And then he mentioned it in the Players Tribune piece as well. So I think that these little things,
they stay with you for life.
They seem like minor details, but they are moments that actually mean something to these guys because they're human at the end of the day.
Like you said it there, human. I think because football can bring even the most experienced of individual into some childish behaviors. I think people forget, people, I can't believe in 2023, we think just because these lot earn thousands of pounds, some millions, you can't feel upset, you can't feel sad. In a day and age where, footballers can't switch off. If you have a bad game, you've had a bad game for a week. You go on social media, you're getting hammered. Certain industry people are like, you're gonna get articles of abuse. Well, not abuse, but like why you're not good enough. We've seen it with Ramsdale and Benjamin White. So you can't switch off. And Ramsdale seems like one of those players, and I think Declan Rice is one of those as well. Once he feels not that they need the love necessarily, but when they can feel that you're kind of with them, it takes them up a tenfold. I call them working class footballers in the sense of you're very identifiable. If you didn't tell me you was Ramsdale or Declan Rice, you'd be friends with you. Like you're one of them guys.
Do you know what also stands out about Declan Rice?
What?
South London guy. Another one.
But is that the real South London? That's like Kingston and that. Hardly Broccoli and Lewisham and that, mate, in the norm, mate. Like
he's not SE like the other ones. But
to be honest, we're the North one now, man. Are we in North London? To be fair, it might all be a fix because we came from South London. Not London Coley's technically not even North London. Hayland is in Walthamstow. Like, all I want is someone from Tottenham, Everton to somewhere in North. Saka's been adopted. I can't lie.
Cozier Dewberry's North.
Listen, he's coming through. Let's just slow cook these guys like Arteta says, man, and let's let them go, man. But this just the thing with Declan because there's so many gears he could go up. I think we've barely scratched the surface. Obviously, he's coming with what got him up to this point to be signed for 100 million quid, and he's got that. I think every time I see him, it's like he feels like he's added another 5% to his game. You can see, like, obviously you was at the game, so you might have seen, but watching it and doing a watch along, it's like he got a bit of information from one of the assistant coaches. And then, as I said earlier, Timber's staying slightly further forward and Rice is there. So Rice, he seems like one of those lieutenants. He seems like a very intelligent footballer. He seems like a leader, really and truly, as well as just being a good footballer. So when we've got him, like, I think that's the closest we're going to be to bringing that petite, that Vieira figure. And if it goes wrong for 105 million, we're in some serious issues. But I'm here for it, man. What do you make of, completely away from the Community Shield and kind of in the theme with the strikers, Mr. Balogun? Today, your colleague, David Ornstein said Monaco had a bid rejected. We know Inter Milan's been chasing him. Allegedly, he's made clear don't want to go out on loan. Contracts running down. Doesn't appear to be in the plans. What do you make of Balogun, really? Because some would argue, with Jesus injured, this is now where people can make a name for themselves and get in the team.
Yeah. So the question was asked to Arteta after the Monaco game. Does his kind of plan for Balogun change? Will he get some opportunities? And Arteta said the plan doesn't change. He didn't say what that plan was, but I think it's quite clear what it is.
He's doing the Wenger thing. Yeah, he's doing the Wenger thing.
So yeah, in terms of where I stand on it, I'm of the opinion that if he feels like he can get first team football, which he obviously can because he's getting interest, go for it. There isn't a clear opening for that first choice striker role at Arsenal. So if he wants to try and prove himself again, because he did that last season, I'm okay with it. The big thing is how firmly do Arsenal stick to their valuation? Because I think the big thing now is because they did their main shopping early in the window, you have to recoup that somehow.
You have to try to get some money in, yeah.
And yeah, that's the big thing. How much is enough?
I think 40, you know.
And no comment.
But I think 35. No, yeah. For real, I think 35, 40 because we're saying 50. A bit like with Declan Rice, and a bit like if, for argument's sake, if Brentford held on to David Raya to the end of the season, end of the window, the longer you keep it, the negotiating position. And as you know, with Balogun, like your value is going to kind of fluctuate if you're not playing, if you're not scoring. As you said, greatest point of that segment is we have to try and recoup value. And you look at our team, like we all know players whose days are numbered, respectfully, Tavares, Pepe, they're not necessarily sexy footballers. Balogun looks a bit sexy, you know, he scored 20 odd goals, all of these things, Haaland, early 20s. You can see why foreign clubs probably want to buy him on the cheap. And then in a couple of years, probably sell him back to these shores for a bit of money. And although I don't want to see us undersell ourselves, when you look at it, he's probably played 10 odd times for Arsenal, not really 90 minutes. Haaland, boy, I can't lie, even if you got 35 million, I would think we're kind of undercutting ourselves. But when you look at it from another angle, I can't lie, it's a very good deal. It is a very good bit of profit.
And the thing is as well, towards the back end of last season, we're speaking to Per Mertesacker ahead of the Youth Cup final.
Mertesacker.
I'm just explaining. I'm just explaining a point. I'm not trying to do.
No, 100%, man. You're too easy to rattle, man.
So
you bite every time, pause.
Major pause.
Yeah, major.
In that discussion, I guess the topic of sales came up. And when you look at it, Arsenal's best sales over the past few years have been academy graduates. Alex Iwobi and Joe Willock. You know, I was hurt about the Willock one.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But you didn't want to see him go at all, man.
It was the best thing for all parties.
Exactly.
Because he's able to play football regularly and prove himself at a Champions League level. Arsenal get 25 million and sign Martin Odegaard a week later. Captain of the club.
And now you don't care about Joe Willock like that. No, you got the class featured, mate.
To be fair, no, I still look out for him. I know he's injured at the minute, but
see, I didn't even know that. Forgive me, Joe. I ain't been doing my research.
But that's the thing. You can still like the player even if they don't play for your club. I think sometimes emotion plays too big a role for people who aren't actually in the room, myself included.
Same.
So yeah. Looking at the Balogun situation, the positive sign is now multiple clubs are at the table. It's not just Inter anymore. So what have you got? Just over 3 weeks left in the window.
That's a very long time.
3 weeks is a very long time. So
we're gonna have to see, bro. You're right in that regards, man. And obviously, you know, I've been saying it to you. I want the impossible dream, like to have 11, maybe even a 25-man squad of Haaland graduates from goalie to striker. It's a myth.
I was waiting for the Emil Reese Eddie Bukayo picture yesterday. I was waiting.
It's gonna slap. It slaps still. Even Smith Rowe. Do you know how happy I was seeing Smith Rowe get little minutes?
He played really well.
He played really well, man. I'm not giving up on Smith Rowe. If he leaves, I'm gonna be vexed. Like I'm not giving up on Smith Rowe. You're coming to take your crown, man. He's coming back, man. He wears number 10 for a reason. I'm with Smith Rowe to the end. I badly hope Nelson can stay fit. Personally, I think Eddie Nketiah, I don't think, you know, respectfully to him, he's anything to scream and shout about. But I do think he's very competent in that role. And I do think he's, by some sections of our fan base, and I get it, Omri, Anelka, the list, Aubameyang in recent years, Van Persie, the list goes on. We've had some great strikers. But I do think it's a bit disrespectful to Eddie Nketiah. You know, you're allowed to think, we could get a better thing. We could do better here. But I think he's very competent in what Arteta demands, and a system that, it sounds stupid to say, but not necessarily, you know, in Arteta's system, in my opinion, strikers have to score, and he knows that. But you're more like a defender. It's all the other stuff you do, and Eddie has shown he can do that. And I look back to when I really started to take Eddie Nketiah in and get a soft spot, is actually off the back of that Leeds loan. I've said it before. It's because on the surface, it was designed for football. He didn't play, but he came back stronger. You know, obviously, what's the manager's name at the time? Bielsa. He came back lit.
I have a point there.
Go on.
So with that whole loan thing, obviously we know for the past few years, Ben Napper, the loan manager, has been
Big him up.
quite involved in where players go to. And with it kind of really started with that Eddie loan, where he had the option to go to Bristol City, where he would have played every week. But the decision was made that Leeds may be better because he's going to have to fight for his place. He's not guaranteed minutes because they had Patrick Bamford.
This is the harsh reality of football now.
And we see how his Arsenal career has panned out. Immediately when he came back, he was fighting with Lacazette and Aubameyang, and actually got himself into the starting lineup.
Do you remember in Newcastle Everton? I was at the games.
Exactly.
I was like, that's when I was like, bro, like, you're looking a bit different, Eddie. And it does surprise you.
And then COVID hit, and we come back. First game is Man City away.
Peak.
And he's starting. He may not have scored, but that's kind of, I guess, where
that's a big vote of confidence.
Player development may not always be highlighted, because people just see, wait, why is Eddie Nketiah starting against Man City when Arsenal have Lacazette? These guys.
Because the reality is, people can only look as far as their nose. People either think about either we advance in a couple, we go out, or 3 points. And I think fans want it all the way. They want rotation, but they want players to stay the same 11. I think they want all the young players to play. But then, you know, a young striker is going to miss chances. A young defender is going to do something crazy. A young midfielder is going to dilly-dally, a bit like when I think a young midfielder is a guy we was previously linked with, Lavia, on the last day of the season last year. Dilly-dally, and maybe he was just in admiration for Liverpool. I think fans want it all the way, and I think the only thing with Eddie, I'm keeping him for this year. I don't think he's happy with his role, because I don't think anyone's happy not to play games, but I think he's more, maybe mature isn't the right word, but I think his ego's kind of, he's, as opposed to Balogun, I still think Balogun hasn't really got to grips with reality of football yet, in that, you know, it doesn't matter how good you are, sometimes you're not playing rightly or wrongly. It's the manager's decision.
It goes back to that clip from the Amazon documentary.
Exactly. Do you get it? Where he's getting onto Lokonga. I like him even more for that.
You see what kind of mindset he is in.
There you have it.
I don't mean to make it like a London thing or a South London thing, but
are you sure you don't need to make it a South London thing, mate?
No, because again,
it's dog eat dog world. The reality is
being brought up because of how he's been brought up as well.
Dog eat dog world. That's a man that's been released by Chelsea and been on the cusp of not being a baller. I love how he reacts to. That's what I meant when I said earlier about how he surprises. Like, he really reacts well to adversity. I think in a healthy way, he backs himself. He knows that I might not get my chance tomorrow or 2 weeks, or exaggerating, but 2 years. But one day that chance is going to come. I'm going to take it. I just wonder for Eddie, at some point, how much better would you be if you could grab 20, 30 starts or 20, 30 games? And I do think in the next 18 months, decision.
It is, because he's 24 now. Where's
the time gone? Wow.
Exactly. 24 years old. And I would say he's a respectable option as a striker for Arsenal. Going into this season, I have no issue with his role in the team. Does he? I don't know. But when you get to 25, 26, maybe that's when you want to be the guy. For what it's been so far.
This is the thing. Go on. I want to see how many actual appearances he has for Arsenal Football Club. Like,
I'm not actually sure, but
because he has to be touching 100. Definitely not 100 starts.
One thing is, like, we look at Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He had over 100 starts. He had over 100 starts for Arsenal, and I think it does play a part when you've grown up at a club that you want to make it a success.
Of course. Sorry to cut you, but 89 Premier League appearances, 14 goals, 4 assists. For Arsenal in total, 132 appearances, 32 goals, 5 assists. So yeah, man, you slap that with 19 games played for Leeds as well. Yeah, you're just under 200 career senior appearances. And, at 24, probably not behind, because I think he's really developing under Arteta, but probably behind in what he could have got, really. But as you said, it's the reality of playing for Arsenal and coming through the academy and all that jazz. I guess some of this could extend to Reece Nelson as well, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a similar kind of situation, I think. And what I kind of draw from, I guess, that situation, as well as how big a fan Arteta has been of him for years. We know that when Arteta was doing his coaching badges, Reece was one of the players that he was coaching, and Reece still remembers the conversations that they had, because I remember asking him about it, and he said Mikel was one of the players.
Arteta, Reece Nelson.
He said Arteta was one of the player coaches who was actually more engaged with the kids. So those little things, again,
stays with you for life, innit?
Little moments, but they play a big role for people. And going into this season, as you mentioned, fitness is the big thing, because last year I think people may have still had maybe doubts about him. But personally, I don't know how you feel, but I think he laid a lot of those doubts to rest with how he played, because
I agree.
What I kind of observed was he was thinking a lot less when he got the ball. He would just get the ball and play.
That healthy confidence.
Exactly. And he was having an impact on games, to the point where when Arsenal get to the run-in, the Brighton game is the one that really sticks out. You probably think he should have been brought on
slightly, even Chelsea at home, even though I felt he played his way into contention to start in around that kind of period. Therefore, he probably unlucky not to grab 1-2 more starts for the club.
And this goes into what we were talking about earlier in terms of Arteta and experimentation. Okay, now you've got a squad, use it.
This is it.
Because back end of last year, sorry, not the whole year, he had a squad for the last few months, but waited too long to use it.
God wonders, if Kirill come in early on what may have happened, respectfully, to Rob Holding. You're right. That's the thing.
Even Jorginho and Trossard, they were on the bench against Southampton and West Ham. They could have been
and Jorginho played well. Newcastle away as well. Bossed
Man
it
of the
that
match.
game. Yeah,
so
bossed it.
These are kind of things that are in my head, but I guess we'll have to see if they will actually come to fruition.
Do you know what it is for me with this depth thing? Yeah, like I know Arsenal fans, when the season's going on, every week there's a player that has to play to the point where you wish there was 12 players, right? My opinion is, as much as I want everyone to play, everyone get a game, at the end of the day, this Premier League football. And one thing I liked about Mikel Arteta is you're playing the same team. Relationships are building. People are understanding each other's game. As you rightly said there, when you get to the second half of the season, then that's when you need to experiment. The one thing I'm now looking for with Arteta is it's kind of gone from 0 to 100. Again, they normally say in life, the less resources you have, the better you perform. And then likewise, when you got too much options, it can get a bit mad. And now I'm going to see, is it a thing where Arteta might have too many options? There's a gazillion people who could play left back. I'm pretty sure Arteta, just give me 5 minutes on the training ground. I won't be like them, man. But just someone showing my clip. It seems like he's got something for fullbacks. Allow me, let me do something. But on a serious note, it seems like there's a lot of options. Clearly, there's players that are always going to play. A fit Saka is always going to play. Odegaard's always going to play. Declan would always play. Let's just pretend Xhaka's still here. Xhaka would always play. That's where I'm looking at with Arteta now. Yeah. Like, how much are you going to rotate? And is there a need? Because to the same way, rotating too much or having too much confidence in players, we've all done it in Football Manager. We believe in all our players. We mess around with the team. We don't necessarily get the 3 points we deserve. We've all done it. We might restart the game, which Arteta doesn't have, but
if we think back to yesterday, the game may not have gone the same way if Trossard started. As much as I love him.
This is it.
He comes onto the pitch,
impactor,
ready to impress Arteta, basically. Yes, he wants to score for himself and stuff, but
now we're crediting him that goal, man. Strike is finished, like in the playground, man.
He's there to make an impact so he can make his living.
And he makes the manager look good because you brought him on.
Yeah, exactly. So these are things where, okay, oh yeah, I want Trossard to start. I want Trossard to start. But sometimes things may go a completely different way if he does start. I'm not saying he will play badly. I'm just saying
It's just not lateral. It's not lateral like that. You're right.
things don't work like I guess
It's just not as white and black as some might expect at times.
There's a lot of grey area. So
Exactly.
that's where again I'm not too fussed if Trossard, if we just keep on him as an example, I'm not too fussed if he does not start against Forest, but my preference would be that he does.
I mean, slightly, he's played his way into it. If there's anything I can be accused of being more biased to as way away from Hayland, it would be resilience. So, Martinelli, you're always going to play for me, innit? But it's one where I wish you had 12 players because I'm like yourself. I'm a big fan of Trossard. I'm not a fan of him playing in the 8. I'm not with it at all.
Okay,
Arteta, if you could do that, but I'm not with it. But all across the front four, do it. And I think Trossard and Martinelli, they get the best out of each other. And one thing I like about Trossard, out of all our strikers, I mean, all our attacking options, so the wingers, the forwards, like the front 3 positions, excluding the 10, he's the most kind of refined in that. Eddie's still discovering himself. As great as Saka is, he's still going up the levels. Martinelli's still learning the tricks and trades of the game. Jesus might know, to do the pressing forward thing, but he's trying to be known as a goal scorer. Trossard, not that he can't get better, but what he's about. What you see is what you do. Yeah, established. That's the word. So, and I think we need to utilize that a bit more. I really do think Trossard is a great player, and I think honestly, I'm in agreement with you in that he deserves to start. Really, So it'd be interesting if I had to bet. I suspect it's going to be the same team that went out against City. Maybe if Zinchenko with another week of training under his belt, maybe there's something to be done there. Timber or Benjamin White could be counting themselves unlucky if they get dropped out. But I think we've got some good options, man. I just don't know because it feels like we need something more. But at the same time, at this point, you're not going to have enough players for the bench. You're going to have too many players on the bench.
One thing also just popped into my mind from yesterday is how they were able to change things during the game. Not just Trossard coming on, but Eddie coming on, going up front. Havertz then goes into midfield.
So Saliba's defending by himself. They Arteta lacks bravery. He went 3 at the back and then he went Saliba. You just do it alone. Someone get me a goal in it, like handbrake.
These are kind of things where, we'll see how I guess the most consistent shape or whatever develops over the next few weeks, but there will hopefully be more of an ability to change things during a game as well.
And I mean, Arteta, if there's one big criticism I think people say of Arteta, it's subs. Now, I've not that I can really make excuses for Arteta because you've assembled this squad and it's been your squad for the last couple of years now. And I know he trusts all of his players, but I don't think last season at least, he's trusted everyone. I think when Nelson and Smith Rowe were coming on, they were the wild cards. They were like everything we've worked on all week, like the Bournemouth game. Everything we've worked on all week, it's out the window now. Football's crazy. It's like a boxing match. You got all the plans on your rival until he punches you in your face and you don't know what to do. And I'm gonna throw you lot on now. And I think Nelson was that. And I think Nelson now, with those opportunities, you're going from being a wild card to a genuine option. Whether you play enough's another thing. But I think for Arteta now, the more players you're getting that you're believing in, and naturally the Tini's, the Tomiyasu's, if Zinchenko is out of the team, you're going to find yourself on the bench. I think Arteta trusts you a lot more than some certain others, really. So I think naturally you'll see more rotation. Like I think Kirill is quite unlucky that we've obviously got, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, this guy, and that. He's lit.
He really played very well at Nuremberg, and I think for me it was
inverted left back. He's moving mad.
It was. I won't say a slap in the face because I feel like I realized he was good before last season ended, but just being, say, I don't know, I was like 10 feet away from the pitch, so he was on my side of the pitch, so I could see the way he moved.
Body positioning and all of that.
How efficient he was with the ball, how proactive he was with his movement as well off the ball, and also how his kind of movements dictated what other players did. So when he came inside, sometimes I think it was Nelson would drop deep from the left. At other times, it would be he drifts in and Gabriel moves wide. So Arsenal had probably two different types of ways to attack when he inverted, and that was really interesting to me. So I'm again loads of things going on up here, but I think it's all good.
A lot more options, and you kind of touched on it. It's understanding if Kirill makes certain runs, a competent player should say, okay, he's taking up this space. Where could I go? As I said at the start, the best footballers, in my opinion, are those that think. The hardest thing to do is to think and to make the right decisions. Pass when you need to pass, shoot when you need to shoot. The Nuremberg's game's quite interesting because I'm sure Fabio Vieira and Trossard, they were like really wide in our build-up play. And again, it's just geared for more layers for Arteta. Ultimately, the more unpredictable we are, the more systems we have, the better we are in it, because unlike last season, we're going to be a known entity. Now, even saw it towards the end of the season. You knew if Xhaka's gonna run forward. You need to triple up, quadruple up against Saka. You kind of kill Zinchenko from getting onto that ball. You're kind of stopping us. So I think teams have started to read that. But this season, people know fully what Mikel Arteta's team is about, what we're trying to do, and there's a degree of expectation. I'm not talking about people that expect to win leagues and things, but there's a code of conduct across 90 minutes. So that kind of brings me to my last question for you. What are you saying, man? If you had to predict where we finish in first, second, third, fourth. I personally don't check the league table. I don't know what I can't answer my own question.
What is the league table?
Yeah, what is a league table? In many ways, just being better than you was last week is winning a league. So I don't know, man.
For me, so it's a really difficult question to answer. I feel like my base level, I guess, expectation or standard would be as competitive as you were last year. I'm fine if they finish second, even
that
third.
was hell of ambiguous, weren't it, mate? Like
no.
Journalist, I would have said the same thing. I'm going to say the same thing.
The thing is like I just want them to take themselves to a point where they're able to say, okay, now we're going to challenge. What happens after that point? Whatever happens after that point happens, because we know from years of following Arsenal, there are moments that will just change everything. I just want them to get to a stage where they can get to a moment and hopefully be present enough to dominate that moment. So yeah, I think if you want me to say a position, I'll say second. But
I mean, I'm with you, man. You know what? As much as I want to win the league, and I agree, when we missed out on top four, the next season we did one better. I hope that's a good omen. I think people need to recognize, in previous years, I actually think last season, for all the good and the bad, previous years, you can win a title. Unfortunately, we're not only playing a juggernaut in Manchester City, we're playing a villain in Pep Guardiola. So it's easier said than done. What I want to do is to be able to arrest our own mistakes, because although I think there was a gulf in class between us and City and there's experience, I do feel, on the other hand, fundamentally, it was in our hands and we crumbled towards the tail end of the season, whether that's through not having the players to cope with injuries, not handling ourselves psychologically, whatever it was. And I also feel, as harsh as it is, against Manchester City, if you're fighting them for a title, you need to be perfect. Arteta said it the other day. If you want to win a title, you need 100 odd points. I think my maths is poor, but I think it would be like 114 or so if you was to win every one of those 38 games. So you could only really drop 14, 12, 13, 14 points. There's no margin for error. That's probably a bit unrealistic. And I say that because I look at the games. For me, the warning signs were in the games against Villa, Bournemouth, Manchester United. Crazy games that were euphoric, but once you get beyond that, we could have done better. Also, games like Palace at home, Brighton away, Leicester early doors last season at the Emirates, where we won, and there's not too much to be negative, but there was little lapses in concentration, a bit like yesterday, ironically, where I would say one improvement we could make against City or in general is probably trying to play to a high level across 90 minutes, because I don't quite think we started slow, but we kind of were a bit too respectful in the first 15. Then we started playing with our own swagger. And in the second half, when they scored, it looked like we lost our discipline due to fatigue. So we need to probably chase that higher optimum of performance across 90 minutes. So for me, if you could get a top 3 finish, if you could get as far as you can in the champs, where I don't really have any expectations beyond getting out of the group and not embarrassing ourselves, if you can bring the FA Cup home, bring it in it. But just make sure we're just that bit more street smart, essentially, I would say.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. Being respectable, seen as just a genuine solid side, which I think they are, but obviously they will have to prove that every week for people who don't watch Arsenal as often as we do, because there will be question marks every single week.
It's the industry.
There will be, oh, is so and so actually that good? Well, yeah, they are, but people just won't know until it slaps them in the face.
Exactly.
So you have to do that.
You're right.
Pause, if you want to pause that one.
Oh yeah. You need to. But that's the thing, though. That's one thing. Like, even I'm not gonna say any names, but even the player at Arsenal that I think the less about. One thing I have always admired about Arsenal, even back to the Emre days and Wenger days, rightly or wrongly, they don't really. It's not that they don't care about the outfield noise, the outfield influences, because ultimately the fans, all of these things make football. If no one was watching them, me and you wouldn't be sat here. No one would really care. But I do like the fact of, they'll listen to opinions. And if somebody's saying sense, they're saying sense. But largely, it's our own internal belief.
Yeah. One thing I remember Arteta saying towards the end of last season, was recognizing what went wrong, but not accepting it.
That's
that
it.
Kind of stuck with
That's
me
it.
because, again, people can say what they want about a manager saying certain things, but at the end of the day, the words they pick are quite important at times.
Very important. Very
And
important.
the
In
way
this day
he
and age as
phrased
well.
that, I thought was really interesting. I know sometimes people can think these press conferences are really boring. Sometimes they are.
No, they're very
But-
PR-y, but sometimes he'll drop gems.
Yeah, there are these little moments where there are words or phrases of genuine interest, and I think that was one of them. So I think that is something he's done in terms of recognizing what went wrong, but not necessarily accepting it.
That's the thing, and that's what I mean about people are gonna talk. Like, I do think in football in general, and I get it, the emotions are heightened. There's very few fans that are balanced. If you look at Arsenal last season, and we've got some volatile fans, you will focus on the fact that football will show you. That's why there's confirmation bias. Football will show you what you want to see. If you just want to focus on the end of last season and quote unquote we crumbled and we bottled and all of that, then you'll see it. If you kind of want to just focus on, not necessarily just focusing on the good, but choose to not think about where it went wrong, then that's all you're going to see, where reality is the truth's in the middle. There are moments we could have, should have, and if we could go back in time, would have done better. And there's a lot to be optimistic about. What we do beyond this point is now down to us. And that's one thing I rate about the players. Like, we're speaking about Eddie Nketiah. He's the best, one of the best examples. The world might not think you're good enough, but if Arteta thinks you're good enough to start for this football club that's followed by millions, and if Arteta says, come the end of the 90 minutes, you did well, whether you think you did well or not, you've done your job, really. That is it. Like, that's one thing I rate about Arteta. The world wanted Xhaka gone. He wanted you to stay. We've got 21.5 million quid now, which is a lot more than we would have got if he went to Hertha Berlin. So I do like how we shut up from the outfield noises. That being said, the players are human. They've got family members. They drive around town. They've got friends. They're all probably saying similar things that your friends and my friends and probably even both of us are saying. So it's an interesting one. I just want us to keep going because we've tied down players, and it'd be a shame with a young manager, with young players, if we didn't capitalize on this, because obviously teams are getting stronger. But one thing we've done, you look at Ten Hag at United, he seems to be getting over the line. Poch has just walked in at Chelsea. Liverpool need to go through a redevelopment. It's kind of like the steps that they kind of have to go through. We've kind of gone through those teething problems and kind of, put a solid foundation. So let's take advantage so that, by God's grace, if Pep leaves tomorrow, we're ready. Like, we are ready, because I genuinely think City will still be there, but it's going to be open season. And I feel sorry for whoever is going to take that job after Pep, because, you saw it with Sir Alex Ferguson, you saw it with Wenger. You step into a great man's shoes. If Wenger said do 10 laps of the training ground and you're saying do 11, that you boys are going to be saying in the press conference, why did you make him do 11 and that? It's crazy. So it's an interesting one. We'll have to see. My last question for you, though, would be, obviously we've seen Timber, we've got Havertz, we've got Rice. If you had to say, out of those three, who would be signing of the season, where would you go?
Ooh.
And I know it's difficult to be saying in August.
Yeah. I'd say the player with the most, potential to impress is Timber, just because he's the least known. With Rice, I think people, and they really shouldn't, but they would always hold that price tag on him. And me personally, I couldn't care less.
I don't. It's not my bread. I don't have 100
exactly.
million quid,
So
but
it's,
I don't
it's
care.
not my money. Like,
Nah,
like
I'm happy
like,
I'm happy we've done this. I'm not being
like,
funny, and he's gonna catch a stray, but like we spent 72 on Pepe. Lacazette couldn't get 20 league goals for 52 odd million quid. William got a big contract. Really and truly, Declan Rice, the centre midfielder, you can't not just do all right. A bit like Benjamin White, you play well, your price tag is irrelevant. Even
exactly.
Ramsdale, for all his criticisms, no one says, "Oh, you was relegated, relegation keeper."
So
Who cares?
with Rice, I'm just intrigued to see how dominant he is. But with Timber, who is it? Kind of like Balogun in the way that you said, like he's an attractive signing for someone to make. I think there's just a lot of different aspects of his game that I think a lot of people will get to digest over the course of the season. So that's why he's my kind of answer for that question.
I would go with you with that as well, man, because I said a few weeks ago is that I understand it kind of what you just said. Everybody that watches Prem, you've seen Declan Rice, you've seen Havertz, probably don't hold him in the same regard as Declan Rice. You know, Timber, not everybody is watching Eredivisie, but he's an intelligent player. We all know the Dutch education and whatnot. He's tenacious. You've seen him play for his country. He's got that sort of foundation or those sort of early things in his game that we identified with White. And, obviously we brought Saliba in before he went on a couple of loans. But with that, I think Timber, I would go with Timber as well. But I'm going to say Havertz because I was excited about the signing of Timber. I was gassed about Rice because I know what I'm getting. And I like Havertz, but it's more the fact of Arteta's not an idiot. He knows what is going to be said if it doesn't bang. It's what you could get out of Havertz for us. We've seen him play centre midfield. We've seen him play false nine. He keeps saying he can play on the right. He keeps talking about his height. More positively speaking into existence. I'm bullish about Havertz slightly. Like, less of the upfront thing though, Arteta, but I'm going to try and remain bullish in it. Like, it ran for the City game. We got away with it, I heard he missed 2 chances. I didn't see it like Wenger said, so I can't comment. But like, if whatever you did with Odegaard and Martinelli, if you can get 15 odd goals from Havertz, we're cooking something. We're cooking.
Oh my god, that was funny. But I think I'm not really on the false nine kind of train yet. I think he did well, and I am in the process of writing a piece on it as we speak. But I think he's someone who'd probably do better facing the goal rather than having
The back to goal thing,
do the whole 360. I think just get him facing that goal and get the ball in front of him. That's what I'm hopefully looking forward to. But I think looking at those signings, Timber will be the one that I'm kind of keeping an eye on.
He's a fullback, so I'm always going to support his team.
Also, one thing that I noticed from the game was, again, I'm not sure if it showed up on TV, but when Arsenal had the ball on the right with either White or Saliba, and it was just kind of like a slow moment, he would make a run off the ball in behind. So, again, they didn't play those passes, but if
and
one
to have the license to do that as well.
If they choose to play one of those passes at some point in the season and it connects, I will be there.
Arteta, I'm telling you, Arteta, shout me, man. Shout me. Just give me a couple weeks of the fitness program. Shout me, Arteta, man. You know you need a fullback, man. Tavares has got. I got more of a brain than Tavares, pause. But on that moment, though, man. Again, you kind of touched on it. Yeah. Before I let you go, you kind of touched on that you're in the process of writing a piece on false nines. What content have you got to come out? On the Athletic and etc., man.
So that one's probably going to be towards the end of the week, maybe like Wednesday or Thursday. Tomorrow I got something going out on Odegaard as a captain.
Propaganda.
So,
I'm here for this. Odegaard's my guy.
Not necessarily like his creativity, his stats or anything, just more him as a person, I guess.
Listen, anything that gasses up Odegaard, I'll be there. anything, I'll be there. Anything. Whether you went back to his home in Norway and they said, he was always a leader, he used to help teach the kids. I'm here for it, mate.
That'll be out tomorrow, and then I'm also, I don't want to like have my best things go out too early in the season. So there may be just things I hold on to for a few weeks, maybe months. But yeah, that's kind of what's in the immediate kind of future anyway.
See, there you have it, people. Don't forget, follow Art on all his socials. Everything's in the description. Make sure if you're subscribed to The Athletic, you're keeping an eye out. And again, people, make sure you're following him on Twitch as well, because he's known to Football Manager, Harry Potter, 1-2 games there, people. So yeah, when he's not in
Redemption,
Red Dead Redemption now, when he's not flying around with Arsenal's first team and speaking with Arteta and Reece Nelson and Mertesacker, he might just have time to stream. No, I'm playing, people, man. I'm just being silly, man. But on that note, people, follow the socials, smash the like button, comment, like, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed. The one thing I want to leave you with is what Art said there, in that, if we're playing Nottingham Forest next week, let us know in the comments. Would you go with Trossard as a false nine? Would you keep Havertz there? Would you go with Eddie? And any other combination or option potentially there, people. So yeah, let us know. Hope you're all doing well and safe. We're out. One love. Safe.
Because you always use that active red line, defenders.
I think it's like